Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Ignite Your Heart and Soul right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My wonderful guest today is Sharon and Rose. What are we going to be talking about? Well, we're going to be talking about igniting feminine brilliance, exploring a woman's deepening honesty with herself, the times that we live in are asking for something more sincere of us. She says supporting women making fundamental and sustainable changes in how they take care of themselves and how they ignite their much needed brilliance and leadership to create lasting generational change on this planet. So igniting feminine brilliance explores women deepening honesty with herself. The times we live in are asking for something more sincere of us, more real, humane, and honest. How will we respond when it becomes the norm to be feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, depleted, terrified about the future? She's been listening to the hearts and lives of women for over 50 years. And as she reclaims, our feminine wisdom is turning towards the change that we must make with bravery and in conscious collaboration. This is the time to be honest with ourselves, to honor the core of the earth, our connection to the inclusiveness of life. This vital to grow is to cultivate soft presence and spaciousness, to look deep inside and feel what we are feeling, fully showing up for ourselves and each other. We needed, we are needed in love, wisdom, and brilliance, and more than ever, fostering consciousness connections with how we speak to ourselves, nurture the souls and bodies, and foster beauty, grace, inspiration in our lives. It emulates the kind of female leadership needed to course correct the personal and the collective conditionings of how we face life. By cultivating a holistic approach to self-care and command care, communal care of self-care, we prioritize our well-being as a catalyst for the global transformation. We are the revolution. We carry the wisdom, and we are here to walk this brave, feminine way. And she has a beautiful book called Women Are the Purpose, and another one, A Seeded Pause in the seated pause to align yourself. I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. Everything that you've written there, I hear you. We are the answer right now. For so long, humans have been the problem. For so long, we've been the problem. And we know what the answer is. But as women, we're willing to step up and be that answer. Put that foot forward. Do what is necessary. We look at it as if this is our household and how are we going to run it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, but
Yes.
where do we start, Sharon? Welcome.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I really, yeah, I'm savoring kind of the element that you just brought to those words, and being here is an absolute delight.
Delight to have you. You know, a lot of people think that women are the answer and women will cure the world as, a lot of people are going, yeah, right. But no, we will. We are.
Mm-hmm.
By the mere
Yeah.
fact we've been able to do a show like this, being able to speak so openly and honestly like this, that for 12 years now, I have been doing shows where we have the permission to speak our truth without persecution. We are already turning that tide. And
Mm-hmm.
the more we do, the more it will become.
Mm-hmm. And it reminds me, you had said something as we were getting ready for the show of, women are brilliant. We know
Mm,
we are.
we
It's
are.
just the rest of the world has to catch up. And,
Exactly.
traditionally, women have been gathering
Mm,
together in groups on, babies on their back,
yeah.
fire at center, out in the wilds of the world, communing with life and each other and our own bodies and intuition. We've been doing that for time immortal. And so we have been building the bright,
Mm.
beautiful world in our hearts and in our direct relationships, in our families, in our partnerships. We've been hard at work doing that for eons.
Yes.
And so I love, what you were sharing is, and now we just step in and show it. We lead the way. And that's a
Own it and
place
show
where
it.
totally.
Yes.
And, there's a lot. Certainly, I can only imagine from your journey. I know from my own, it's taken a lot to get into a more comfortable
Yeah.
place doing that.
Yeah.
It was not easy. It was like being held at the stake, burned again and again,
Yeah.
and I know women have many different um, experiences of what that's like to come into their brilliance, to come into their power, to be at ease in their bodies and show that, and not have to push, against the system, but just be the transformed system,
Exactly.
and it takes a lot. And so, coming back to your question of where do we start, that's where we start. Like
Mm.
each of us must do the very tender, vulnerable work of kind of reclaiming all that power inside of us, reclaiming what we know our unique natural gifts and medicine is, so that we
Mm.
can lead the way in a very different dynamic and style than what we know leadership and power to be, because we've
Right.
got it, and
We
it's in
have
our
got it. And I think
DNA and our
it
blood.
is. And it's in our actions. And like right now, we're seeing, obviously, in some countries, it's been like this for a while, but there's a breaking loose. But we're seeing, let's say, America, where we're seeing, uh, I call it the handmaiden's tale syndrome, where,
Mm,
people are trying to turn the clock back of what we can read, what we can do, wanting women to go back to barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen and submissive. And it's like trying to put a baby back in the womb. We're
mm,
born, and we're here to stay, and we're here to do. And you may complain and whine and groan and pass as many laws as you want. You already have a women's rebellion on your hands. We're just being kind about it.
mm, mm. Yes, a female rebellion is really different, isn't
Mm.
it?
Yes.
And I know, in the early stages of my path, there were so many things where I was being revolutionary. I
Mm.
was going against the grain, even as a new unexpected mama. I was doing things like homeschooling my kids, and all these things that are creating a little homestead and growing my own food, and
Mm.
having my children be taught by the trees and the
Yes.
earth and the
There's so much
forest.
knowledge there. So much knowledge.
Exactly, versus human teachers.
Yes.
And again, no disrespect for any of that, but it was always this path of like, oh my God, I always feel like I'm pushing a boulder up the hill,
Yeah.
because wow, I don't get support. Anything I chose along
Yeah.
the way, even with my business, etc., it was this, okay, like I really do have to do this alone.
Yeah.
And then getting to a point where others would go, oh, I kind of like what you're doing over
Yes.
there, and
Yeah.
can I stand with you, and can we, forge alliance, and then working in that way and things slowly building. And to do it that way takes time. It really
And
takes time when
patience.
you're
Yeah.
so much patience and so much deepening self introspection and trust, because you're not relying on the system. Like
Right.
that's the woman's rebellion. You no longer rely on the system. You don't need it. You don't need permission from it. But you're not like saying like screw you. And I mean, you
Right.
can say that. You can
We
say
have
that if you
acknowledged it's
want.
broken. We've acknowledged it's broken.
Yes.
So, like, something breaks within the family realm. What do? We roll up our sleeves and look for a solution,
Mhm.
right? Where, the system as it is right now needs to be completely dismantled. The old phoenix, burn and from rise. And, we've done this as women how many times in our own lives, where we've kind of burnt down to ashes and risen back from it, stronger, more resilient, more persistent, more patient. But each time with that even more determination in order to be that symbol of truth, that symbol of inner honesty, that symbol of love, and that everything done from the heart is something done worthwhile.
Mm.
Right? Now, if a serial killer is going to say, "Oh, I do it from the heart," he's talking a very much plastic heart, not a real one, right?
Mm.
Because if you are stepping into the world of love, you can't knowingly hurt anyone else. To do so would to hurt yourself. So when you truly come from the heart, from the real reasons, right? And not one style is going to suit all, but if people come together with a collective heartness, right? And together we say, I've got this instrument, you've got that instrument. Let's make an orchestra. Just look how
Yeah.
powerful we are.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, in the US right now, we have a woman running for president. And the way that she is leading is so heart centered. Her background is as a spiritual leader. And, she sends out daily meditation. She speaks about this dynamic place of inner forgiveness, for ourselves, but for others. And she's talking about politics in a way I know in my lifetime I have never seen.
Right.
And
Sorry,
it's
who is it?
really
Who is it?
Marianne
Well, she
Williamson.
ran last time too, and they all laughed at her. Yes, I remember.
And
Yes,
people aren't laughing at her now.
no.
They're quite
And
frightened of
and
her,
and there's a few
actually.
laughs that are going in other directions right now. You know what? Now we need somebody who makes sense.
Yes, and there was this moment she stepped away, um, and had rescinded her campaign, but then she stepped back in, and when she stepped back in, and again, this is just like the epitome of that female revolution. She stepped in not because she was determined to be president
Right.
or because of the end goal. She wanted to make sure the voices of the people were heard.
Hmm.
And so even as she's doing all her work, she's going to go to the end, she said, and it's not that she has to be president, it's that the people's voice cannot be forgotten. And she
Right.
wants to make sure everyone's having these conversations because none of the other
No,
campaign,
no, no, they
none
don't
of
know
the
how to have
other,
it.
they're
You know,
not,
no,
they're
it's
not
one
talking about
mudsling
this.
after the other. You know, it's
Exactly.
one just vulgar, almost violent type approach to each other. You're not talking about the people. You're just talking about how you hate each other and how we've all got to hate you too. And we
Yeah.
need somebody there that comes in with some harmony and that speaks to our hearts where we feel it and hear finally somebody speaking sense and not in the, let's bash each other to pieces type thing. I mean, there's somebody that shouldn't even be up on that podium at all. And if he makes it, then I throw my hands up in the air because quite honestly, he's a representation of all that is wrong. He's the poster child of all that is wrong, right? And it's time for people to wake up and stop following the cult, which it almost
Mhm.
seems to have become,
Mhm.
and take some accountability for your own choices based on information that is based on facts,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And escapism, we're a people that choose to what we hear,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Choose what we listen to and how we're going to hear it and what it means to us. Because we're actually asking every individual out there, man and woman, to take responsibility for your life, for
Yeah.
your choices. And that also means in your voting.
Mhm. Yeah, and I actually went to see her a few weeks ago, and I love everything she's saying. But her response to a couple different things, mostly about this extremist of just two political parties out there,
Yes,
is
which, yeah,
we
ridiculous.
can no longer, not that we ever could nor should have, but it's not about pointing fingers. It is
Yes,
not about creating, divisive stances. This is about realizing exactly what you said, broken systems. That's what
yes,
it is. It's not
yes.
any one individual. It is all of us deciding how are we going to roll up our sleeves with
And put,
love for all of humanity
yes,
and
yes.
make these profound choices that we can feel in our bodies and our hearts are going to serve future generations.
Somebody who
Really.
cleans house in a way that we feel we can visit and know we're welcome, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
happens with people when they get a little power? I think one thing that politicians forget, you are in a role of service to the people, and it's changed into us serving them. And that's not what it's all about. And I think all the way along the line, all these messages have got misconstrued.
Yeah.
And we almost need the mama rolling up the sleeves and going, now, This is what we're going to do.
Yes, absolutely. That is true female revolution,
It is, isn't it?
right there. Yeah. It's like, there we go.
We were born to be multitaskers. We were born to look at something, and yes, I mean, you just think about in one day what a woman has to do. I'm going to talk about my daughter has two babies, a 3-year-old and almost a 1-year-old. And she's going back to work next week. So, but this is what she has to do. One gets up at maybe 6, the other one maybe a little later. Sometimes it's 5:45, right? She's up with one, she's up with the other. I've got it yet. I've got it yet. Sorry.
No worries.
um, and and then we've got, breakfast, right? Packed lunches for daycare, right? And then getting them to daycare on hand, which she goes back to work, and then coming home, making the food, playing with the kids, cleaning up the house, putting them to bed both differently because they go to bed at different times, and then feeling so exhausted, just wanting to go to bed herself. But look at all that she has to do in one day. Now, her husband is very, very good and extremely hands-on with the children, but he's not a chef. He doesn't cook, right? But you look at what we are called to do. And when I hear women who have, children have left home and say, look, I'm just a mum. What can I do? Head cook and bottle washer, financial chauffeur, nurse, psychiatric nurse, sex goddess, you name it. Look at all the things that you can do. All right. Now, how do you transfer those skills into something else? But we put ourselves down so much on, well, that's all I can do. What? What? Do you realize how much you do in one day?
Yeah, I think there's so many things that are, advanced educational system and our journey with putting titles after our
Yes,
names, the,
yes,
the real pain it's caused to these natural awakenings of power and genius that happens on a woman's path in life,
yes.
whether she has children or not. There's so much that she is holding and carrying because
Mm,
she comes from her heart, and
yes,
she cares about her relationships, her family, her community. I mean, across the board, it's always been statistically the women who like have stepped in to volunteer, to be of
yes,
service, you know what I
yes,
mean? Like
yes.
without any question about
Yeah,
the money piece.
exactly.
And so, like, that is one of the things I always see when I work with women. And it will be the first one I ask women to address is why do you think you're an imposter? Why do you think
Mm,
you're not an expert? Why do you think you don't have like PhD just because it wasn't from a school? Like, grant it to yourself because
mm.
you have so much wisdom and you've lived probably a gazillion PhDs plus, in all
Exactly,
these arenas that
exactly.
you just spoke
Yeah,
about. And how can you begin to reframe and really list all the things you've done in your life and really see what they are translated to
yeah.
in a consumer world, in a really,
Mm,
a world filled with degrees and education, to bestow that on your own self
yeah,
and your own life path. Because yeah, we're coming into a time where people could care less anymore. They just want to be helped, be supported, and to
yeah,
find the right path. And again, women can step into this without needing another certification or training, and just knowing, what their true value is.
and it's definitely reach out to the people that can help you in your self-discovery. Of I think the thing is, along the line, you've been exposed to something you love to do. Now, it's
Mm.
not just what you're good at doing. Right? You're good at doing that, but do you really like doing that? You might be good at
Yeah.
taking out the garbage. Doesn't mean you have to be the garbage man, right? What is it that you really love to do that you would do over and over and over again, paid or
Mm.
not, right?
Mm.
And then look at the skills that are needed for that, and then look at the skills you already have from your life experience. Then you reach out to those particular coaches that can help you refine it. It's not about the numbers and the dates and the letters behind it. It's about the passion. It's about the conviction.
Yes.
It's about the
Yes.
desire to make and have an impact on somebody else's life in a
Mm, mm,
positive way.
mm. Yes. Well said. Well said. And what I always hold space for women to come into is that felt
Mm,
understanding of
mm,
when they are in alignment
mm,
with what delights them. And again, that delight, not just being like, oh, this is fun, because it usually is really
yes,
fun, but when they can just feel their whole body and being able to be pulled by this, that they
yeah.
can just lean into it and that it just pours out from them,
And
like you
feeds
said,
them, feeds them,
irrespective.
right?
Yep,
Yeah,
irrespective of the outside. I mean, yes, you
yes,
never want to deny your basic needs and more. We must hold accountability to receive what is accurate and right and true for our time and our energy. And yet, that inner place, when it
yeah,
starts flowing like a fount, it and you
yeah,
follow it. And you keep going, and then you start to create the scaffolding to make
yes.
sure everything is um, durable and sustaining to care for you and your future.
Do you find that women are far more? I mean, I'm one of these people that I don't know if I can do it until I try. So I'll give it a try. And that's
Mm,
how been my pattern all the way through life. And the same with podcasting. Um,
yeah.
April 4th, 12 years in podcasting. In June will be 11 years of my own network. And I didn't even know what a podcast was when I was asked to join another network and didn't know if I could do it. Right.
Mm,
But it was, well, I'll give it a try. And do you find that we when we can get out of our own way, when we cannot hear the chatter from everyone, or who do you think you are, and what do you think you can do? Well, you think you could do it better, which you generally kind of get more from a spouse or siblings or
mm,
something like that, right? But in your heart, you're like, I don't know, can I do this? Let's give it a try. Do you think we're holding
mm.
ourselves back, or that we are jumping forth more to give it a try?
I think it's and both.
Mm-hmm.
You can see how women will hold themselves back, especially when it has to do with pretty deep seated trauma,
Mm,
the kind that takes time and patience and support, of that consistent refacing what this is and realizing how deep it is and
mm-hmm.
how deep it impacts your capacity to feel like you're more than enough, that you're worthy, that you can step into, your world, your dreams, your vision, and be supported.
Yeah.
Because often when the wound is deep, there's zero capacity in that moment to be able to see that you'll be supported and your back, someone will have your back.
Well, so
But
so
then
many
once
people.
that
Hmm.
that's underway, then you watch women just
Yeah.
start to do the like, yeah, why not? Like,
Yes.
let's
Yes.
go. And to also carve a much more a softer way, a gentler way.
Mm,
You hear
mm,
so many of those slogans, like Nike's original one of just do it.
yes.
And there's fiery
Yeah.
excitement with that,
Hmm.
and there's not often the understanding of the smaller steps that it takes to
Hmm.
get into a really good rhythm, groove, and again, a very self aware and deeply self nourishing experience. When
Yeah.
we just jump, the net isn't always there. Like, that's true.
Right.
That's
True.
real. You
That's
can
true.
fall and it can hurt, and a lot of things can happen. And you can get back up again.
Yeah.
And then, like, how to bring people in, how to
Hmm.
ask for support, how to say, I don't want to do it quite that drastically. I want to do it a little bit more gently and more aware of my own needs along the way, and not just do something just because I can, to do something because it actually moves
It
me
means
and
something to
I
me.
value it. And I don't have anything to prove to anyone.
Yeah.
I don't have to just go do this because then I think I'll look cool and I'll grab attention. I'm doing this because my whole heart is on the
Yes.
line.
Yes.
And I'm here to care and serve and make this world a better place.
Well, the biggest leap you're going to take is the first step, right? Learn to
Mm-hmm.
waltz before you learn to cha-cha, right? And
Yeah.
also, one of the things is let your trauma show so you can see it, heal it, to release it. We're
Mm-hmm.
taught to suppress,
Yes.
right? Get over it, just move on. Or you see somebody with a trauma and you feel, oh, this trauma is so much bigger than mine. How could I possibly even talk about mine? It's no big deal. And yet it's still causing issues inside of you. because we should not compare ourselves to anybody and we should never compare our traumas.
Yes. Yeah, they have found, that big T traumas and little t traumas have the same impact depending on how others had responded to you.
Mm,
So, a child being horrifically beaten and a child simply, a parent being like, I don't have time right now, and ignoring them can, and again, not undermining anyone's
right.
experience, but it can actually create the same brain patterns inside of you and result in the same kind of trauma.
It's a sense of
So,
abandonment, isn't it? Kind of when somebody does harm to you, it feels like you're not loved, you're not valued, you feel abandoned. What did I do wrong that they can't love me? And I think that's the kind of the fundamental of any
yeah.
trauma.
Yeah, because then we abandon ourselves.
Yes.
And that is and then we're doing it for our whole lives and not even realizing and understanding why
Mm,
our life isn't going the way we had hoped. Because
yeah.
there's in every moment of the whole course of a day, until we realize that pattern and really take responsibility for it with so much grace and
Hmm.
tenderness and love, we realize we're the ones that are just repeating it. And that's the most, that's that first step you're talking about.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
the most painful one. That's the biggest risk we'll take, to say, oh, I'm not going to abandon myself anymore.
Right.
Not
I
going to
like
happen
when
on
you,
my watch.
no, exactly. And the thing is, look, well, I don't want to open that Pandora box. I'll never get the lid back on it. No, you need to release the box. It's about to combust. And
Mm,
you want to
mm,
be in charge of
mm,
what you release, right?
mm,
If you wait,
mm.
then that box is going to explode and be out of your control, right?
Yes. I was just ironically and not ironically talking with a client this morning about her Pandora's
Hmm.
box. And she said, okay, like we had worked a lot on accessing anger, being more comfortable with some of those more uncomfortable and not
Mm.
sexually accepted feelings inside of a woman. And she was basically saying, okay, like I gave the keys to my angry one, and now I'm kind of scared of
Yeah,
what
yeah.
she's doing. And what, like, I can't even stop, that kind of like screaming, yelling into pillows, thrashing. And so we had this beautiful conversation of, sweetie, yes, you maybe gave her a set of keys,
Yeah,
but you've still got the master
yeah.
keys. And you get
You
to
can't change the
one.
lock.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, she was in that, like, oh my God, when you let everything out, it's like, crap, I'm terrified,
Yeah.
terrified of who I might become. And then realizing it's an exploration, it's a
Yeah.
learning. We're going to be extreme at first, and
Mm.
then it starts to become an art form, like our sadness, our grief, our rage, our ecstasy, our pleasure.
Yes. Yeah.
We get to meter those and really, discover um, what kind of, resonance and balance of those feel really good to us, so that we're, one, not suppressing it anymore, and two, not feeling like it's going against who we want to be and how we want to be in our relationships and in life.
It's a
Because I'll hear
discovery
a
of who
lot
we
of,
are,
exactly, yeah,
right?
which is an art. It's like
Yes.
creative. We can let
We are these beautiful, divine,
fun.
exquisite women or men that are waiting to be discovered. And we've been living very much on conditioning and expectations our entire lives, or going back many lifetimes or many DNA family lifetimes of this expectation. You must, you must, you must, you've got to, you should, you don't count unless you do. Right. And it's like underneath all of that is this beautiful, beautiful essence that is ready to shine in all its glory, that will serve so many in its abundance. And but we've suppressed it for so long with all these should haves. And
Mm,
that what you're
mm,
doing is you're releasing all the many times that you have been told, no, you're not enough. No one cares. Who do you think you are? I don't like you. I don't love you. All of these things. But nobody knew you. You didn't even know yourself.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and the journey of getting to know ourselves in this culture of quick fixes and one
Yeah.
pill, takes care of it all, that, forever, eternal experience of building honest relationship with ourselves takes
Yes.
time. I've now put down the, maybe whatever it was that I was striving for, like, oh, I need to know myself. I need to know myself now.
Yeah.
And now it's much more of a I will take until the day I die to get to
Yes.
know myself
Yes.
because she's ever changing.
Mm-hmm.
And the nuances of noticing who I am today and noticing who I'll be next year, all of it is this creative process that
Mm-hmm.
we can allow to be softer and more spacious and more magical, really,
Kinder
instead of
to
turning
ourselves.
it, yeah,
Yes.
exactly, kinder. Because once again, our culture has turned even getting to know ourselves into
Mm-hmm.
some consumeristic,
Yeah.
like it's got to have an end in
Yes.
sight and you got to reach the goal instead of no, this is actually how you then start living. It just
Yeah.
becomes a part of your day and
Yeah.
the
And
flow
it
of
doesn't have a
choice.
dollar sign on it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Your enrichment and your abundance has got nothing to do with
Mm-hmm.
e-commerce. In fact, the true e-commerce is your self-love. Because in self-love, you know how to love others. And that's where the true abundance is.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said.
I
Thank
think the big word is allow, isn't it? Allow ourselves to go on this journey of self-discovery. The reason I call this network self-discovery wisdom is that our wisdom is ready for the picking.
you.
The universe, source, wisdom, God, whatever energy, whatever you wish to call it, is accessible to all of us. So if we step into our soul wisdom and it's given to our heart in resonance of truth and into our spirit action, our minds will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it because it will give us clarity,
Mm-hmm.
not conditioning, clarity.
Yeah. Yes. Mm. Mm.
We're searching for wisdom all the
Yeah.
time where it's accessible to us all the time, isn't it? If we
Mm.
could just be still enough and channel.
Yeah, I love when people discern the difference between knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
wisdom
Mm-hmm.
because you can feel it,
Oh, yeah.
And again, my field of work has been women's wisdom. And
Mm-hmm.
when I stepped into that, it became so palpably clear. And there's that word again, that clarity, that it is so different. You
Yes.
feel it in the body. Even
Yes.
going back to what we were speaking about, when a woman, like ultimately, that's what she's coming into when she
Mm.
finally says, I will come
Yes.
forward in life,
Yes.
to share and do what I'm designed to do. And what, the term you often hear is what lights me up. But, for each woman, it's different. Like for me, it's
Mm.
this palpable, like thrumming, almost like the beat of the earth, like the
Mm.
heartbeat, where I feel it literally, like in my
Yes.
bones. And
Yes.
that's our wisdom, because
Mm.
a woman's wisdom is not separate.
Mm.
It's not just individualistic to her. It is when she's connected
Taps
to
in.
all of life. And
Yeah.
I'm always so delightedly touched when a woman feels that inside, because then she also realizes she's never walking alone.
Never.
Her understanding of
Mm.
independence becomes very different, because she realizes, oh, there's wisdom, there's all the universal intelligence, and
Yes.
I am a vessel of it. I
Yes.
am like the messenger of it. Like,
Exactly.
yes, keep going, keep going. And that's woman's wisdom. And
It
that's
is.
the difference between wisdom and,
And knowledge.
and
Yeah.
knowledge.
Knowledge is a
And
database. It's stuff that we acquire, but half the time we don't know what to do with this knowledge. We don't know how to use it. And that's where the feeling, the knowledge, I feel what I need to know rather than I think what I need to know. Right? And when you
yep.
feel it, it's like, I know how to use this knowledge in the right way. If you think it, you go, I could use it this way. No, but I could use it that way. But if I used it this way, but no, if I used it that way. And you're spending so much time wondering which way to use it that you could have already done it already.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of times women, when they come to me, they're at that stage of like, I'm done. I can't find the answers in the next book. I can't figure out what other training to take at this point.
Mm,
I'm looking at where can I figure out how I need to learn what I need to learn to do what I want to do.
mm.
And then it's the now we can begin.
Yes.
Now you
The
get to
permission
learn that
has been given
yeah,
to themselves
yeah,
and to you. And now what they're doing is surrendering to the allow.
yeah, yep. And the complete undoing,
Yes.
the
Yes.
unraveling, the, taking away all the things that have masked them from seeing themselves.
It is never too young or never too late to
Mhm.
start this journey.
Mm.
When we look at our young children, and I have the, sorry, shameless post here, but Our Forgotten Children is a podcast book. It's a book with 15 authors in there, on how we need to change the system around raising our
Mm.
children and supporting our families. We have these beautiful children that are so wise, that are living in that essence of being, and they have such connection to life, to everything around it. And then we send them to school where now they must conform and be small and be boxed in and just everything demeaned on them. This isn't against education per se. It is the education we're churning out now in the way we're churning it out.
Mm.
And we have to change that system. We also have to stop spending so much war on politicians and war, money on politicians, war, and put it more in families. Right? Because when you support the
Yes.
families, you don't need the war. When you support the families, we don't have children in dire need, right? We've got to go to the
Mhm.
root cause,
Mhm.
support the families,
Yeah.
change the system. And that means each one of us as a parent have to look at our own traumas, our own problems. What do
Mhm.
I need to change to be a better woman for myself, to be a better
Mhm.
mother, a better wife, a better human being? But first of all, for myself.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, when I first got into my work, it was as a newly pregnant mother. And I had worked with women, my background in my undergraduate education was literally in women's studies. And out of college, I was working with women, usually in very underserved situations. And I became pregnant, while I was working for a federally funded program that served early childhood, 0 birth to 3, and their families. And I would go into the family's home and work with the parents to, really be able to create a much richer environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned so much, especially from the women who were living in more kind of multi-generational
Yeah.
situations. I had a lot of women from Mexico on my caseload. They taught me so, so much. And so when I was having this beautiful baby ripening in my belly, I was so struck by this. I remember the day I came home to my now husband and was like, I can't go back to work. I have to give my all to this child and
Mm-hmm.
to the growth of this child. And what actually ended up happening was everything I share through my work
Yes.
came from that.
Yeah.
And when I say that, it was, yes, studying like how life was growing inside of me. Yes, a child, but literally life, you know?
Yes.
And then it was learning how to take care of myself so that I could give my all to this child, to this life, to this newly emerging family. And I remember, one of the first courses, because what I did in the beginning was I would go through a life stage as a woman, and then I would kind of turn back and say, how can I share what I just learned
Mm,
with those who are going through that life stage?
mm,
And so I remember the first one was, first class or course I did was sacred. It was something with pregnant mamas. And all we did, during that whole time was really looking at how could we allow that deep interior sense of being held while we were holding. How
mm,
could we really see that as we were pregnant,
mm-hmm,
that
mm,
overarching power, whatever we want to call it, that higher power was actually holding us while
mm-hmm,
we were holding. And
mm-hmm.
it was such a profound, different shift for so many of us because often in our culture, because we don't have the extended sense of community and family
Yes.
and
Yes.
kindred, women really don the armor in, these current times to be like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this better than it was done. And I'm going to do it
Yeah.
differently than society because we all know like
Yeah.
our children are being let down and
Left out.
have been for
Yes.
generations. And that is one of the biggest aches for a woman,
Yes.
biggest aches,
Yes.
and I knew that one and know it very, very well. And so again, it's so important that mamas and women learn whatever they're devoting, that heart service to be a universal mother to and a literal mother to,
Yes.
that we remember that which is carrying us, and so that we don't do it alone.
It's interesting because if you're a stay-at-home mother, you're a failure as a career woman.
Mm,
If you're a
mhm,
career woman, then
mhm.
you're a failure as a mother. And this is
Yeah.
against societal dictation, all a whole load of codswallop. Some people do have great careers they can't walk away from, or they don't want to walk away from. And for children, it's okay to know mom and dad are going to go to work. And then when they come home, this is your time. It's, you don't have to be there all the time. I had a couple of careers with my three children, but mostly I was a stay-at-home mom. And
Mm,
they
mm,
would come home after school with a friend, and we would have tea and talk about school. And never knew who was going to stay over for dinner. It was
mm,
I always
mm,
loved round tables. So everybody
mm,
was equal at the round table. And then, when they bring up things, what's a homosexual? And you would tell them and the level that they could understand. I never believed in holding things back, but obviously there is
mm,
different ways of telling people things. Because if you make a big deal on, oh, what did you just say? Then you're
mm,
making it something
mm,
sinister as to rather it is this and nothing to worry about, so to speak.
mm,
And
mm,
then it's just like my children are mixed, they're half Chinese, and racism runs whether you are white, or
mm,
not so white. I mean, let's face it, it's rampant out there, which is by now, folks, get over it, please. Look for people the inside out, not the container they're in. It's just so ridiculous. But you've still got those people that think that way.
mm,
And so what you have to do is stop buying the persecution. Stop
mm,
letting it in. And I know it's hard because I
mm,
went through
mm,
all of this, not just because my children were Chinese, but because I was a highly spiritual person. So I was weird.
mm,
And
mm.
at some point, you have to go, doors closed. It's okay to say no, the door is closed here, the door is closed there. Your world may get smaller, but the people you have in there are people that truly do care. And it can get bigger and bigger
Yeah,
as time goes by, as more and more people decide to care,
yeah,
decide to have your back,
yeah.
think along the same way as you. Don't let all that negativity, you should and you better not, and it, that, etc. Who needs that in your life? Nobody. So don't
Mm,
let it in.
mm,
Don't let it in.
mm, mm. Yeah, there's that fierce mama bear right there. Yeah, and being a historically very empathic, incredibly highly sensitive person, it's like I still to this day in my 50s, a menopausal woman, can't hear that enough,
Yeah, yeah,
really.
yes.
Just to hear that message, don't let it in,
Don't let it in.
because it's that
It's their
um
issue, not
it's
yours.
right, and it's the knee-jerk reaction to
Yes.
let everything in. Those of
Yeah.
us who are so open-hearted,
Mm.
we carry that gift. It is a gift, and
Yeah.
it is an incredible. Mm, I know you know that I don't literally mean this, but it's an incredible weapon. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like you can really turn that into such a force field of unconditional love when you let
Mhm.
everything in and you
Yes.
really trust it's going to be transformed. And my background also is in shamanism. It's going to be alchemized. You're
Mm.
doing this on behalf of the
Yeah.
greater collective and good. But then when it gets to our, very human nature where
Yeah.
we have feelings,
Hmm.
ouch, like that stuff hurts
Yes.
like
Yes.
heck. And our children are being, overwhelmed,
Hmm.
overwhelmed by so much of what's going on. And yeah, for me, it's so tender to talk about. And I am so passionate about that journey of how do we walk in the world and help our kids and the next generations to be, these really strong human beings that know you don't have to take that, while
Right.
also knowing your tenderness, your soft heart, um, is really, really important. And the fine line between raising very empowered children and also watching out for the entitlement. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
there are
yes.
so
Yes.
many
Yes.
nuances and
Yes.
all of this that, yeah, they require a lot of care, dignity, and a village
Yeah.
to raise our
I mean,
beautiful
living
children.
unapologetically, but also owning if you've done something wrong and
Mm,
apologize.
mm,
There is a place for apology. But you shouldn't have to be apologizing for who you are. Now, I'm sorry if you're
Mhm.
walking with a pitchfork and you want to stab everybody because you're in pain and you want to bring that pain to everyone else because of, misery. I want company. No, I'm sorry. You
Mhm.
are responsible for your own healing. There are so
Mhm.
many people that can take your hand and help you on that journey, but it's your journey. Please do not impose it on
Yeah.
everyone else,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yes.
And that's
Yes.
something human beings have not yet learned. We are
Mm.
beautiful, divine creatures that are meant to be living in love and harmony and love towards one another, caring towards one another. But if we're carrying pain or regret and we haven't done the work to release it, all we're going to do is impose it on everyone
Mm.
else.
Mm.
And then relationship after relationship is going to be the same. Your relationship at your work, people in your life, everything, because you are projecting your misery on them all the time. Or
Mm.
you are inviting the same thing to happen to you all over again, because that antenna, that is what's up there. We have to do our inner journey, inner healing, because if we
Mm.
don't, that's what we carry through our lives, and our lives become miserable and we make sure everybody else around us is miserable. No,
Mm.
nobody else has to
Mm.
accept that. Why should they? They're dealing with their own. If you want help, they'll be there to help you because that's human nature. But for you to say, I'm miserable, you're going to be miserable, no,
Mm.
not acceptable.
Mhm. 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 Yeah. Mm.
A lot of people think that spirituality and shamanism and all of that means kumbaya, and we're
Mm.
going to hold each other's
Mm.
hands and sing We Sweet Roses. They don't realize there is a fight in it, but it's a different energy. It's not a fight that I'm out to get you, is I'm out to change myself, my environment, that you may, if you wish to, feel safe in.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that journey of deep, deep self-care that comes, it's not the one our culture
No.
lavishes on the billboards at all. It's a fierce one, it's a really fierce standing for those um, aspects in ourselves that we spoke about earlier that got abandoned. And there's nothing, soft and gentle about it.
No.
We learn to be soft and gentle with ourselves in the
Mm.
process,
Hmm.
but we'll go through a lot. I know everyone right now, everybody seems to be talking about setting boundaries and the
Yes.
sacred no, for example. And these things are incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible,
Yeah.
especially for a woman to have a new vitalized
Mm.
relationship with what
Mm.
it means to say no,
Yeah.
and also the no to herself.
Yes.
Because once you've practiced that on the outside, you really realize there's aspects in you got to say no to, because they're
Mm.
doing the,
Yeah.
just the crippling daily pulling you on your heels to keep you in your small little
Yeah.
region of, who you thought you were, versus the one that's willing to say, no, I'm going to take you by the hand and let's go. Let's go explore this. And so, yeah, these things are incredible, but they're fierce,
Yes.
especially at first,
Yeah.
because it's drawing a new line in the sand. And we all know what happens with lines in the sand. The ocean tide comes up and
Yeah.
totally washes them away. And then we're like, dang it, where'd my line go? And it's like, yeah, next day you draw it again. And the
Mm.
next day you draw it again. And you keep doing that, almost like a ninja in training, where you're just re-greeting, your daily practice of these are my boundaries. This is what I'm standing for. And for me and for most of the women who are attracted to me, they have these overpouring hearts. And
Yes.
that takes a lot to rein that in, until you realize, oh, you're not reining all of it in, you're reining it in with areas, people, situations, and experiences that will literally drain you.
Yeah.
And that's where you're reining it in. You're not reining it in from yourself. You're not going
Mm.
to rein it in from, the life that you love and are building, and all of those who, care so deeply about you. And so, yeah, those are really fierce, fierce
Hmm.
things to
Yeah.
learn. And it takes a real warrioress.
It's all about those good vibrations, right?
Mm,
When
mm,
we're actually resonating on this higher frequency, this frequency of love, which is measurable, folks. It's all literally scientifically measurable.
mm,
Scientists are beginning to actually understand people that live in this higher vibration. And now with wonderful technology, they can actually read your aura, your energy around you. And those that resonate on a higher energy of love, kindness, caring, compassion, consideration, aren't going to do harm to anyone knowingly, again, to hurt themselves, and are there for others in any which way that they are. Now, the people that are on the very kind of lower vibration, they can't touch the person on the higher vibration. We can't really go down to help them because they'll just suck us back in. Right? It has to be, you have to, from that area, get to the middle road. You have to come from that really deep darkness and want to come out, want to step up into the light and get to a certain point where we can now help you. But it
mm,
is that free
mm,
will, right? Where you want that spiral to stop.
mm,
You want
mm,
all of that to stop. And you've just got to let it happen,
mm,
right? So
mm,
it is about becoming and being free and allowing it to happen. So
mm,
tell us
mm,
about the book, Women
mm,
Living on Purpose.
mhm. Sure. So I have three books, and two of them are compilations,
Hmm.
with other beautiful women authors. And so, Women Living on Purpose is by an amazing publishing company called Powerful You Publishing. And in that book, I have a story about my midlife journey, and it's called "There's Life in Stagnation." And so it's really twisting and thinking outside of the box about the aspects we have told ourselves are stuck or unmoving or, are frozen or
Yes.
unmovable and unchangeable. And really realizing, because of my own process, it was a very transformative process for me through into menopause. And yeah, so I just share more deeply of what I came to realize, and even use the symbology of a stagnant water, like a stagnant pond or
Hmm.
pool, and
Yes.
what you come to realize when you actually commune with a stagnant supposed water is there's so much life teeming under the surface of that, and it has now learned to feed and
Mm.
nourish the whole ecosystem, and it's not drawing from outside,
Yes.
because it's now become that. And so I share that as, and it's a really powerful story, especially for women who are going through this deep midlife change.
Water is such a beautiful conduit.
Mm,
We are 70% water. If we are dark and miserable, in pain or in distress, our water changes,
mm,
right? And it
mm,
can no longer sustain our organs because the water is no longer nutritious. So, what we say to ourselves and how we love ourselves is how we optimize our own water and how it becomes a conduit in our own system. The trees, all of the matrix of the trees, the fiber optics talk to each other. They don't care if you're a willow or an oak or this or that. You are a part of the forest. They are connecting with each other. And when a tree goes down, life comes from it.
mm,
It sustains
mm,
all other life around it. When you walk into a forest and the leaves are rustling, that is the wind rustling through the leaves and it's speaking to you. Your heart and soul knows what
mm,
it's saying. Your mind eventually will understand, right? And when we watch the shore gently kiss the sea gently kiss the shore
mm,
and wash back out again, it feels like it's washing away all our troubles and all
mm,
our woes.
mm,
Nature with children laughing, doggies chasing sticks, horses galloping, all
mm,
of that is a way to feed us, to sustain us, to uplift us, to energize us. And if we could stop doing this all the time on our phone and get out into nature and immerse ourselves into that beauty of being, we would actually then actually understand we are part of this collective. We are all made up of all of the particles there. We are all fiber optically connected to each other.
mm, mm,
And if we can tap into that, the expansion of ourselves is so utterly incredible. It is
mm,
only human beings that are the slowest to learn this collection because all animals and all other life forces already know.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and when we taste that for ourselves, life
Mm,
really, and not just taste it, but that word that you shared, which I use so much in my work, which is allow it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then the next layer is to trust it,
Yes.
and those can kind of flip flop. Sometimes you really got to taste the trust before you can allow. And then a lot of times you got to allow before you can even trust. And, once you do, it's such a different experience,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's like a deep breath, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah, like
It doesn't matter what's happening. Yeah.
even in your hardest moments,
Yeah.
really, you can just feel something coming into you and helping you, to be carried more fluidly along.
And that's another word I use a great deal is fluidity. You know,
Mhm.
the ocean, the rivers, the wind, the sunlight, everything is fluid. Everything inside our body, our oxygen in our body, the oxygen in our blood, the energy in our body, water in our body, all must be fluid. Anytime something becomes stagnant, it ceases to grow. And we are meant to grow all the time.
Yeah, and to be in communication, so one of the practices that I want to built and created because of what was happening in my body when I was pregnant is called the wombing sanctuary. And I began doing this one on one, but then began doing it in groups of women.
Hmm.
And it's where one woman comes into the center, and those around her, we call midwives or guardians,
Hmm.
they entrust her system and what's happening inside of her to guide and direct all those sitting around her for what she most needs.
Hmm.
And they trust that universal intelligence is communing, with
Hmm.
each woman's
Hmm.
heart. And
Yes.
it becomes so profound to watch. It's literally like this orchestration of
Mm.
magic. It's a dance. And you watch women like closing their eyes and tuning in, and they might put their hands on that woman or they might whisper into her ear. And again, when you enter into a sacred container where everyone is entrusting guidance
Hmm.
to guide,
Yes.
and knowing that guidance is not just coming in for one body, it's coming
Mm.
in for all bodies.
With good
And when we
intent.
allow and when
Hmm.
we trust, then
Hmm.
we flow with the
Yes.
fluidity, and we become like the water all
Mm.
together moving, in this
Mm.
glorious harmonic of a symphony of sharing love, support, and wisdom with each other, all happening non-verbally.
Exactly. And that
So,
speaks volumes, doesn't it? You know, I
mhm,
say that we're all an instrument learning, what is our instrument? How do we play it? And we could be soloists and we can do very well. But however,
mhm,
when we join an orchestra, each in our own strength, but harmoniously play together, we transcend a symphony that resonates out to so many. And yeah, I've heard you talk about orchestra and instruments and everything else. And that's the point of it. We are instruments. We're instruments of love. We're instruments of caring and kindness and compassion. We're instruments of abilities, of creativities. And when we allow ourselves to be, how many people sell themselves short because they're looking at themselves from a human aspect instead of a divine aspect? There is no limit on us. But as humans, we put
mhm,
limitations on us. Let's be that
mhm,
divine being
mhm.
and allow
Yes,
ourselves to be all that we are meant to be.
yes, yes. Amen.
I think,
You're speaking it, honey. You're speaking it.
being led by you. The beauty of it is, I think, is that sisterhood that you're talking about, where women come together. Is there a child in any one of us that at some point hasn't been let down or hasn't been wounded or hasn't felt lost? And we
Mhm.
carry that child around with us like a heavy weight. And if we can open up ourselves to get into that child and say, I'm sorry you had to go through that. I am here. Let me love you. Let me hug you. Let me nurture you now. I've got you. That's really all the child
Mm.
needs, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, so I have led kind of containers and communities for the healing of the sisterhood wound. And again, women just say, oh my God, just having women listen to me,
Yes.
accept me, receive me, for me to know that they actually love me,
Yes.
irrespective of
Yes.
what I do or don't do,
Right.
changes the playing field,
Yeah.
literally at a metabolic level,
Yes.
for a woman. And that's the exact place. It's just because her little sweet inner child has been so
Hmm.
wounded and hurt, and she hasn't trusted that she could be loved. And when she understands, no, you're more than loved, honey. You
Yeah,
are so
exactly.
fiercely
Yes.
adored and cherished and entrusted to live your best, most radiant life. That's what, any woman wants for another woman, is
Exactly.
to,
I think the heart
wants her for her best.
is a perpetual generator. You know, the more
Mm,
love you have, the more love you give away, the more love that generates. I just think it kind of keeps growing and growing. And, you know, having women that can hear you, because we've also been told nobody wants to know your story. Now, this is what I do here in Self-Discovery Wisdom. I have heard some stories that will blow your mind that never should happen to
mm,
a human being.
mm,
But who they've become, their courage, their strength, their abilities, their compassion for themselves, their direction they're going in and helping other people, because they were willing to go through the process of self-healing, of knowing that they were not the victim anymore, that they'd taken back their power and they had become. And they can share their story now without any pain attached to it. It is what it is, but I am who I am now,
mm,
my
mm.
choice, right? And we need to share that story. We need to have a safe place that we can tell that story, whether we're gone through it or whether in the process of going through it. And we need people not to feed the pain, but to help you open up to release that pain by showing you the
Mm,
love you can put there in its place.
mm, mm. Yeah, beautifully said. Mm.
But that's what you do, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And that's what we do for each other, you know. It's almost like that becomes a natural outpouring when you stop efforting and
Yes.
thinking you have to be other than who you are. And when you can relax into knowing, like, yeah, I don't have to improve,
Yes.
on this beautiful essence of myself. Of course, there's things I'm going to always grow and nurture and learn and keep, inspiring and discovering, but that real core place in us,
Mhm.
there's no improvement needed.
No.
And when we come to taste that, we can just like truly lean back and
Mhm.
let that beautiful aspect of us that just wants
Yeah.
to love others so purely and completely. And I love, I'm thinking of one particular woman, but many women have expressed this before in working together. And at first they can taste how huge and powerful their love is,
Mhm.
and they have often then held that back because they were frightened of, like, oh my god, I feel like it would destroy everything.
Yeah.
And actually it does destroy everything. It destroys all that is not love.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it is a force unlike anything
Mm.
on this planet. And it is otherworldly
Mhm.
until we go, oh, okay, I can walk with this.
Yeah.
I am everything that this love needs. And I can allow it to unfold through me and just do its natural work. And it really will be bigger than life. And then
Yes.
it just becomes so natural and truly so easy to just show up in the day to day, not just even professionally, but in your day to day existence, and truly care about whoever you're with such deep sincerity, and deep kindness and concern and humanity.
Yes.
So,
Two powerful words. I
mm,
am.
mm,
Don't even need to put anything else on there. You don't need to put enough. You don't need to put anything. It says, I am.
mm,
That's it. Right. And to get to that point, we have to be willing to
mm.
flush down the
Yeah,
drain all the things that we thought we weren't.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And to do that
yeah.
in a safe place, to do that amongst women that care, to do that where they've got your best interests. It's not
Mm,
an
mm,
agenda. The agenda is you discovering you. Women are so supportive of other women in their discovery. right?
Mhm.
Because when they make
Yes.
that
Yes.
discovery, it's a discovery for them. That's the thing. That's the win-win, isn't it?
Mhm. Yes.
We're in this together. We can heal together. We can strive together. We can thrive together. We can fly
Mhm.
together. The whole point of it is you're not meant to do it alone. Once you tap into your universal divine essence, you are never alone. The universe has got you. But we need our human companionship. We need that sisterhood where we feel I can go to, I can be a part
Mhm.
of, I can share
Mhm.
my instrument with, I can be a part of somebody else's healing. How incredible is that?
Mhm. Mhm.
And all they have to do is reach out to you to start the process.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's where the deep lived experience of interconnection starts to unravel
Mm-hmm.
and show us the truth of it. And I think for the longest time people were talking about oneness and it wasn't really embodied.
Mm,
People were talking about it and yet turning towards their neighbor and telling them to F off.
yeah. Yeah.
And and not really getting
Yes.
the
Yeah.
level to which that was their own abandoned self doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think now you just see as more and more humans really come to walk the path of knowing we are the living expression of each other and others are the living expression of me. And how do I navigate that with healthy boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
with fierce loyalty, to myself, and then with that incredible oneness that, yeah, we don't even need to put it into words. We get to just say,
Exactly.
am,
Yeah.
I am that,
Or I
and then
am
that takes
part.
care of it
Yes.
itself.
Yeah.
So we're
Or
not
I
forcing
am
something.
a part of the orchestra. Because the
Yeah.
more we become I am, and now I am ready to join this orchestra, and the more orchestras we have out there performing these symphonies, the more we're going to rise above the pain, the angst, the fear, the anger, the lack, the opulence, the greed, the power hungry. We're just with that resonance, we're going to open up people's hearts as they let it into their souls, right? So we need women led orchestras that have done the work, that have become part of the harmony. Because where we were talking at the beginning of women leadership, women who are going to change the world, they're changing the world through harmony, through harmonizing, through letting our sound of peace, love, and collectiveness become the invitation to uplift everyone, men or women, but led by women. And there are some men that have stepped into this beautiful heart essence, which is wonderful, but mostly it is men and women, I mean. And so it is about us creating these incredible orchestras out there, these beautiful symphonies wherever we go, and playing such beautiful harmony that for all those lost souls that feel they need to belong and don't feel they belong, they feel they need to become and don't know how to become, that this music sings to them, that lifts them up. And we drown out the hate, we drown out the fear, we drown out the greedy, opulent, power hungry people. They are no longer heard. All you can hear is the song of love. And we don't need to use a pitchfork for it. We use our love. And it don't
Yeah,
cost
and
a
then it
thing.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, and female-led orchestras, which can be in any body.
Yes,
It can be male body, female
yes,
body,
yes.
gender
The
fluid
feminine essence in a
body.
man. Exactly. Yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah,
it is so inclusive where it
yeah.
says,
Mm-hmm.
if you desire to be a part of this orchestra, please come.
Yes, yes,
Please. No one will be turned away. We
no,
will find a way,
yes,
to keep broadening the
yeah,
parameters to make sure, especially all those who have been ostracized,
yes.
othered,
Mm.
demeaned, diminished, completely had
Disposed
their
of.
voice
Yes,
stripped.
yeah,
Exactly. It's like those, especially, we will have come and we'll have them come to the center,
yes,
to really set the tone, like you're talking
yeah.
about. So that tuning
Inclusivity.
fork. can
Mm,
go to
mm,
that
mm.
spot in all of us, led by those who have lived it in their bodies here, in these times, so that we can then, set forward a very different song, really different
It's
song.
time that heart became the leadership. It's time
Mm-hmm.
that heart within someone became the idea, because it's all going wrong. And, again, part of the thing of our Forgotten Children book was to bring awareness of all that's gone wrong and how we've
Mm-hmm.
let our children down, how we've let the families down, and what we need to do in order to put the process right. Because if we don't, if we're unaware, how do we care? And how many people are only seeing what's in front of them right now, their own struggle, their own day to day, and they don't realize that if you heal yourself, you start healing the people around you. You start seeing the problems not as, oh my God, problems, but what's the opportunity here for a solution? How can I
Mm-hmm.
bring in others for us to find a solution? How can we do it in a compassionate, caring way that will lift everyone up to a higher level, where the true enrichment is, where the true abundance is? Money will follow, but we've got to
Mm-hmm.
first feed the
Mm-hmm.
heart and souls into enrichment. Otherwise, the money is worthless.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's another shameless plug for dear sweet Marianne Williamson. But in her whole campaign, she talks about children and,
Mm,
again, everything you're saying, putting the focus on the children and restoring like all the things that are necessary to have vibrant education, childcare, healthcare for children really restores a nation. And it's interesting that elders and children have become such a lost component, to come back to the title of your book, such a
yeah.
forgotten
Yes.
and place where we realize
Yeah.
we restore when elders and children, like, those are our bookends,
Mm,
truly.
mm,
And when attention is devoted to that, everything in the middle then can just do what it is meant to do,
yes.
and really generate all the incredible ideas, visions, and services and programs that we're here to generate.
There's an awful lot of goodwill people that are trying to make a difference in a system that is corrupt and pushes back. So we need to make that harmony of those systems so strong and so loud that they have to follow that path. They
Mhm,
can't
mhm,
intervene with their
mhm,
own agenda. They have to get behind it because we know it works. Anytime that something comes from true love, true collectiveness, true
mhm,
inspiration,
mhm,
we will find a solution and it will work because it's coming from the right place. Right. And when we stop looking at everything as bottom line, money bottom line, and we look at it instead of heart bottom line, right, then we will
mhm,
actually truly see things grow in the right way. And you're never too old to start this. I'm 69, turning 70 in a few months, in 6 months. We're never too old. The oldest person I've interviewed was 92, took a lover at 90, still has her own TV show, and she's still going. She's probably about 94 now, right? I live with a 90-year-old
Love it.
who interrupted me just now, who is amazing, still drives, still cooks, still does all and this and that. We are never too old to change, folks. Don't say, it's too late now. From the moment you're born to the moment you leave this body, you have the opportunity to put things right.
Yes. Yeah, and we all need these role modelings for eldership,
Yes.
an eldership that doesn't go into stagnation, but
Yeah.
understands, like, you're at your prime and
Hmm.
we need you. Like, we need your wisdom, we need your care, we need
We earn the
the
wisdom.
lived experience,
Yes.
exactly,
Yeah.
and it changes our society for the
Yes.
better.
That actually will be the Christmas book, which is our Forgotten Seniors. And that will be
Oh,
on how we are treating, especially in the Western world, our seniors by disposing of them. Right. And we saw
beautiful.
that with COVID and we see it now. And you don't have this Zoom, this phone, this, that without
Yeah.
the people that came before you. And I think a big word that is missing in the vocabulary of the world today, too, respect and gratitude.
Mm,
And I
mm.
think those are the words I want to make sexy again.
Oh, such a good mission. So good. Yes.
Yeah, well, I see what you mean. That's the thing. You think I'd be slowing down? No. I've got four books. One I've written on my memoir, This Forgotten Children, which I produced, and I'm in two other books this year, and I've got two more books to come this year that I'm producing. But that's the thing is that when you find it's the right time and the reason behind it is right, the universe is with you. It is with you, and you will do it. No matter what, you will do it because the universe has synchronized everything for you for it to be right now. I had to wait for all this to come about the right time, right synchronicity. And then when it did, it all came at once. It's the way the
Yeah.
universe works. Hang on, this human timing. Could you space things out a little bit, please?
No,
But it
I
comes all at once,
know.
right?
Yeah, that's another thing. We do not, as a culture, have any sense of true, like rhythmic timing, true
Mm,
seasonal timing.
yeah.
And I talk about this a lot, but I've really gotten to learn in the past few years about fallow, like what
Mm,
it means to truly let an aspect of you go fallow.
yeah.
And in the, agricultural world, that is just a natural practice. You
Yes.
always let like one plot go fallow and you do not touch it while you
Yikes.
might be tending other ones. And
Exactly.
we've got these ideas like all systems go, like all cylinders lit up and fully firing. And actually, that's not the accurate way that a
Right.
system functions well. We need things to be, you know what I mean, at that more rhythmic
Yeah.
kind of
Yes.
cyclical
Yes. Yes.
level. And so
Yes.
it's important for us to tend the fallow, because then when it does hit, when
Mhm.
the rains come or whatever, when the sun is so bright, it's gonna just go. It's gonna
Yeah.
grow, it's gonna thrive, it's gonna need to be harvested, and all
Hmm.
the abundance from that really well, used wisely. And so, yeah, I think there's so much to be said for us to deepen into really trusting the timings, of things, and trusting how we work with those and we can collaborate
Absolutely.
with them, not be
Yes.
a victim of them, because they're
Right.
not meant to hurt us at all. They're
No.
very wise, very, very
And
wise.
it's okay if something didn't come to fruition when you wanted to do it. This has been a 5 year journey. 5 years ago I thought about doing this book. And many years ago I thought about writing my memoir. And then it just all seemed to be. I did one, and then the other one came into place, and then the invite to be in the other two. And it was just the rhythm was there, right? And that's the thing is that sometimes we plant seeds, make sure they're not weeds. You plant seeds, make sure you water and nurture them, but allow them to grow when they're meant to come into bloom.
Yeah.
Do not tug at their roots, right? And
Mhm.
like, cane is one of those things. It can take 5 years to grow, and suddenly it's 200 feet, right? So you don't
Yeah.
know what is happening underneath that soil, but if you keep watering the desire, keep watering that seed of desire of what you want to grow, all of a sudden the universe will say, okay, here you go. And here it is, right? But be
Yeah.
careful what you seed, otherwise you could have a field of weeds.
Or you could have some of the deepest roots, like that are
Yes.
gonna live forever. And you're kind of
Yes.
like, well, maybe I didn't quite need that.
I think that's what's happened to me all of a sudden. Oh, we're rooting you here, there, and everywhere.
Yes, yes.
Now, if somebody wants to, yeah, I see that you do a great deal of, hands-on people. So obviously where you are, is there anything that you do virtually with your people?
I do. Yeah, I totally work virtually as well.
So
So
what
I
is the
do one-on-one
process?
work with women virtually, as well as groups virtually, and courses. I have courses that women can take and sign up for, and do either on their own or in a facilitated situation.
And of course, the circle thing would obviously be in person.
Nope, it's both. So it's in
Really?
person as well as virtual. Uh-huh.
Well,
Yeah,
energy begets energy. It doesn't matter if it's channeled to someone, it doesn't matter it's from the other side of the world, right? It will reach that person.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's been fascinating because, I began doing, for example, I shared about that wombing sanctuary practice, and I began doing that in person. And then when COVID hit, I had started
Mhm,
a women's community online, and we began doing that every
mhm.
single month. That was one of our monthly practices. And it was some of the most revelatory,
Hmm.
extraordinary, because you then don't have all the physical components that
Hmm.
you might be, paying more attention to. You're really starting to feel,
Yes.
more of that nonverbal connection. And it's so incredible that, yeah. So it's
We don't realize
amazing.
how much beautiful energy we have in us. And people think energy is just plugged into the wall, or we've got energy to go and do sports, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't realize how much
Yeah.
heart and caring energy we have. That just even when, people, I'm having a hard day sending them love, a loving energy, and how
Mm-hmm.
it can make them feel even if they're unaware of it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
same with negative energy, it has just as much power, but if we feed the positive energy, it's something. I'll give a quick story of my mum. She was dying, she was very, very sick, she didn't know how to cross over. She was her room was in the living room, beautiful bay window, and my sister was looking after her, and she went to go make a cup of tea, and it was a dull, rainy day. And my sister came back in, and the sunlight was streaming through the window directly onto my mother. And my mother's hands and eyes were open, and she had just passed
Mm-hmm.
and been taken. I
Mm-hmm.
had 24 hours before that put up a prayer vigil for,
Mm-hmm.
please, my mum needs to cross over peacefully. I need your prayers for her. 130 people verbally sent prayers, and within less than 24 hours, she had crossed over.
Mm, mm, mm.
It works. It
Yeah, yeah,
works.
that's the heart in action, isn't it?
Hmm.
That's the
Hmm.
heart in action.
Exactly.
So beautiful. What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
And people don't realize how impactful it can be and how
Mm,
impactful we are. It's not just our words and our actions, our intent, our loving intent, our vibrations
mm,
of what we share with one another, how we give it to one another, and that exuberance of how we want others to feel like
mm,
we're feeling,
mm,
and then how much expansion can come from that. Is
mm,
that it's
mm,
unlimited. And this is why it is the era of the woman, because
mm.
there is no ego or agenda to it other than everyone feeling as loved as we feel ourselves.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Mm,
Then they get the message, don't
yes.
they?
I know.
You are the
Well,
love you
my
seek. You are the
dear.
peace you seek.
Yes, yes. Well, this has been an extraordinary conversation. I'm seeing it is
You have to
time
go.
for me to go. I have an appointment right
Okay, will you
now
please
for
tell
at a
people how they can get hold of your books, the gift that you're
yes.
giving away, and how they get hold
Okay,
of you?
you bet. So you will find me on my website at www.sharonannrose.com. And there's all kinds of juicy free audios, videos, podcasts, interviews on there. And you will find I have a free gift for you for being a guest here on Sarah's incredible podcast. And I believe you're going to have a link,
Yes, the
correct?
sacred
Yes.
pause to align with yourself. The link is right here on the show page,
Yes.
folks. You just have to put in Sharon and Rose on selfdiscoverywisdom.com, and it will come up,
Beautiful.
and
And
the
it's
the link to Amazon as well for your Women Living in Purpose book as well.
Yeah, I have three different books. Faces of the Mother, which is a book that I wrote and published. Then Women Living on Purpose, and she is Unleashing Divine Feminine Power. And my free gift is taking a pause, a sacred pause each day. And so there's a beautiful audio for you. I practice sacred pauses. So I
Mhm.
literally set my timer every day and, just come back into a place of deep alignment. And for so many women, that is one of the most pivotal experiences when they commit to
Mhm.
literally doing that every single day and understanding, what a responsibility and great gift it is to taste what it tastes like to
Yeah.
be aligned in yourself
Yes.
and to move through your day from that place. So yes, that free gift is there for you, and the link is there. And it has been such an honor. Really enjoyed this conversation with
I've
you,
enjoyed
Sarah.
it
Such a
immensely too. And
bright, beautiful being you are.
right, right. It's lovely to see a lover sister like this who lives on the same vibration. And that's the beauty of it. It's the sisterhood. It doesn't matter where we are or what we're doing. We're all doing something to uplift each other. And that's what we're asking you to do. You don't have to do what Sharon Ann does, but you do what you do you, and just bring it again to the orchestra, because that's what we need. We
Mm.
need many instruments to make this orchestra really transcend. So, and if you have got the blockage, if you've got things in your way and you're ready now to say, I need help, then she's here to help you on your journey of your own self-discovery and to how absolutely beautifully awesome you really are and what gift you are to all of us and what gift you are most certainly to yourself. So thank you so much, Han. It's been wonderful having you here. And to everyone else,
Mm. Thank
please
you.
allow yourself to come forth, for the world needs you. Take care. Bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.